My wife Claire said she was going on a short trip with her sister Megan, but a few days later, as I walked to the pharmacy, I bumped into Megan alone. When I asked about the trip, she acted strangely. The more I pressed, the more I realized something wasn't adding up, and that's when everything changed. It was a normal Tuesday morning when my wife Claire told me she was going on a short trip with her sister Megan. Nothing too unusual, right? Sisters go on trips all the time. I had no reason to question it. Claire had always been close with Megan, probably closer than I was to my own family. They'd always shared everything, from childhood secrets to adult troubles. "You sure you're okay with me going?" she asked, her brown eyes locking with mine for a moment, searching for some kind of approval, though I'd given it months ago. "Yeah, of course. You deserve a break," I said, adjusting the strap on my work bag. "You've been working non-stop, and Megan's always fun to be around." Claire smiled, that soft, sweet smile she always gave when she felt reassured. It was a familiar comfort, one that eased my thoughts as I kissed her goodbye that morning. I had the house to myself for a few days, a rare occurrence in our routine. I would be lying if I didn't say I enjoyed the peace at first. But as the hours passed, a creeping unease began to settle in. I could almost hear the hum of something missing, something off, but I brushed it aside. Maybe I was just used to the chaos of our lives. 2 days went by with no real updates from Claire. I knew they were staying at some cabin Megan had rented near the mountains. It wasn't the most secluded spot in the world, but it was tucked away enough that they could get some privacy, escape the buzz of the city. Still, no texts or calls, just a brief message from Claire the night before, having a great time. "Don't worry about me." I believed her. At least, I thought I did. Then, on the third day, as I walked down to the pharmacy just a few blocks away, something happened. It was one of those moments where you think everything is normal until it's not. I was mindlessly walking down the sidewalk when I spotted someone familiar walking toward me. It was Megan. I froze for a split second, my brain catching up with what my eyes were telling me. Megan was supposed to be with Claire. She was supposed to be at that cabin with her. So why was she here, in the middle of the city, alone? "Hey, Megan." I called out, my voice a little louder than I'd meant it to be. She looked up, almost startled. "Oh, hey, Jimmy," she said, her tone casual, as if it were the most normal thing in the world to run into her brother-in-law on a random street corner. I gave a nervous laugh, the confusion already bubbling up inside me. "What are you doing here? I thought you were with Claire at the cabin." Megan's eyes flickered for a moment, a brief flash of something I couldn't quite place. It was a hesitation, but it was so brief that I almost doubted I saw it. "Oh, no, I was going to head there later," she said, her smile wide and a little too bright. "Just ran a few errands around here first." I didn't know why, but something felt off. My brain was trying to rationalize it. She must have gone back into town for some reason. Maybe Claire had asked her to grab something. It didn't make much sense, but I forced myself to smile and nod. "Well, I guess I'll see you when Claire gets back," I said, trying to keep the conversation light. "Yeah, sure. I'll let you know when we're back," Megan replied, then quickly turned away, walking a little too briskly for my liking. I stood there for a moment, my mind racing. I couldn't put my finger on it, but there was something strange in the way Megan had acted. Her smile hadn't reached her eyes. There had been a flicker of discomfort when I mentioned Claire, and that odd rush to get away. It was then that I began to feel a strange pull at the back of my mind. Why hadn't Claire mentioned anything about Megan being out of town for errands? And why didn't Megan want to talk about the trip? Why had she been so eager to brush off the conversation? Something didn't sit right, and I wasn't one to ignore gut feelings. The next day, I decided to call Claire. It was almost noon, and I'd spent most of the morning pacing around the apartment, trying to shake off the nagging doubts. I needed answers, and she was the only one who could give them. But when I dialed her number, it went straight to voicemail. Now, I'll be honest, my first thought wasn't that something terrible had happened, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was getting brushed off. This wasn't like Claire. She always picked up, even if it was just to tell me she was in the middle of something. But now, silence. I tried again and again, each time to the same result. By the evening, I felt a strange knot tightening in my stomach. This wasn't normal, and I couldn't just sit there hoping things would go back to normal. I had to do something. I called Megan. I didn't want to, but at that point, I was desperate for any kind of reassurance. When she picked up, her voice was a little too upbeat, a little too, "I'm totally fine." "Hey, Megan. I'm just checking in on Claire. Is she doing okay? She hasn't answered my calls today." There was a noticeable pause on the other end. "Oh, she's fine. She's just probably, relaxing. She told me she was going to turn her phone off for a bit." That didn't sound like Claire. She had never been one to completely shut off from the world, especially not when she was just supposed to be away for a short while. "Really? She's not answering her messages either?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "Yeah, she's probably just busy," Megan said quickly. "I'm sure she'll get back to you later. Anyway, I need to go. I've got some things to do." Before I could respond, she hung up. I stood there, my heart pounding, a chill running through my spine. It was too much. The way she'd answered had been so off, so robotic, that I knew she was hiding something. But what? I decided I couldn't wait any longer. The next morning, I got in the car and drove toward the cabin where Claire and Megan were supposed to be staying. It wasn't that far, just an hour or so outside the city, and I thought that maybe seeing it with my own eyes would calm my nerves. But the closer I got, the more uneasy I felt. It was a small, rustic cabin in the woods, just like Claire had described. But when I pulled up, I noticed something strange. The place was quiet. Too quiet. There were no cars parked outside, not even Megan's. And there were no lights on inside, despite the fact that it was early afternoon. The place should have been alive with activity. The windows should have been open, or something should have been happening. But nothing. I walked up to the door, knocking once, then again, louder this time. Still no answer. I knocked again, this time harder, and that's when I heard it, a faint sound, like someone shuffling inside. My heart skipped a beat, but when the door finally opened, I froze. It wasn't Claire. It was Megan. Her eyes were wide, her face pale. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice cracking as she spoke. I wanted to see Claire. "Is she here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "She's not here. She left." "Left? When?" Megan avoided my gaze, stepping back slightly. "A few days ago. She went back early." My chest tightened. "Why didn't you tell me?" I didn't know how to explain it," Megan said quietly, almost like she was confessing something. Before I could ask more, I heard it, footsteps behind me. I turned quickly, and there she was. Claire. Her hair was messier than usual, and her face was pale, like she hadn't slept in days. "Claire." I whispered, my voice shaking. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at Megan, and then back at me. Something in her eyes was different. Distant. Cold. And that's when the truth hit me. Everything I'd suspected was right. They hadn't been on a trip. They hadn't been in the cabin at all. The worst part? They'd never planned to be. Claire stepped into the doorway, her movement slow, almost deliberate. There was a chill in the air now, a tension between us that hadn't been there before. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I'd loved for years, now seemed so far removed from the person standing in front of me. "Claire, what's going on?" My voice cracked slightly as I tried to process everything. My thoughts were jumbled, but there was one thing I knew for sure: something had gone terribly wrong. Megan was still standing near the door, her eyes darting between me and Claire, as if waiting for some cue. But there was no cue. Not anymore. Claire took a deep breath, her eyes flicking to Megan before she finally looked me in the eye. There was a hardness to her gaze, something sharp I hadn't seen in years. "I didn't go to the cabin, Jimmy," she said flatly, her words sinking into me like stones. "I haven't been anywhere. I've been with Megan. Hiding, actually." Hiding? My mind couldn't make sense of it. Hiding from what? From me? Why? That was all I could manage to say. Claire swallowed hard. "Because I needed space. I didn't want to hurt you, but the truth is, I've been seeing someone else. I've been with him for months, and I couldn't keep lying to you anymore." Her words hit me like a slap in the face, but there was no physical sting, just a hollow emptiness, like the air had been sucked out of the room. Megan didn't say a word, but her eyes were dark, and the guilt there was palpable. She hadn't even tried to defend Claire or offer some excuse. She just stood there, silent, complicit. "Who?" I asked, barely above a whisper. It wasn't even a question anymore. It was a plea, pleading for something, for anything that would make sense of this. Claire shook her head. "It doesn't matter, Jimmy. He's not someone you know. I've been seeing him for months, and I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to tell you." Megan's eyes welled up with tears as she glanced at me, but it was too little, too late. She'd known about this. She'd been a part of it. My chest was tight, my breath shallow. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I couldn't make sense of the pain washing over me, drowning me. How could you do this? How could you lie to me, to both of us? I choked out, my voice raw. Claire looked down at the floor, her hands trembling as she ran them over her face. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you, but I couldn't keep lying to you either. I couldn't live that way anymore. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But I was frozen, trapped by the enormity of it all. The love I thought I had, the trust one thought we'd built together, all of it shattered in a few words. For what felt like an eternity, we all stood there in the silence, the weight of her confession pressing down on me. And then, almost instinctively, I took a step back, my body reacting before my mind could catch up. I need to leave. I can't be here right now, I said, my voice strained as I backed toward the door. Claire's eyes widened, and she stepped forward. "Jimmy, please." But I couldn't listen anymore. I couldn't stand there while she pleaded for something that was already lost. I slammed the door behind me, the sound echoing through the cabin. My heart was racing, and my mind was on fire, trying to piece together the ruins of my life. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay there with them, not after everything she had just confessed. I drove for hours, not caring where I went, just needing to escape the suffocating weight of what had just happened. The streets blurred. The world outside felt distant and unreal. I didn't care about the direction anymore. I just needed to be far away, as far away from her as possible. Eventually, I found myself at the edge of a small park, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows. The world felt off balance, like the ground beneath me was shifting. I got out of the car, not even thinking about it, just needing to walk, to do something. I found a bench and sat down, my mind racing in 1,000 directions. I could feel the tears threatening to spill, but I wasn't ready to face that yet. I didn't know what I was feeling, anger, betrayal, sadness, but it all felt so overwhelming. I kept thinking back to Megan's face, the way she tried to hold my gaze when I'd asked her about the trip, the way she couldn't even look me in the eye now. I felt betrayed by her too, but in a different way. She'd been my family, my wife's sister, the one person I thought I could trust. And now, nothing made sense anymore. I couldn't shake the image of Claire's face when she'd confessed. She hadn't even tried to justify it. She hadn't made excuses. Maybe she thought that was enough, but it wasn't. None of it was. The world felt heavy, and I didn't know what to do with all of it. Part of me wanted to reach out, to scream at Claire, to demand answers, to make her feel what I was feeling. But another part of me knew that this was something I couldn't undo. She'd made her choices, and no matter how many questions I asked, the answers would only tear me apart further. I took a deep breath and stood up from the bench, my legs unsteady, but I had to move. I had to do something to shake the image of her from my mind. And then, in the quiet of that park, with the sun almost gone and the world around me silent, I realized something. No matter how much I loved Claire, no matter how much I wanted to believe in what we had, this was something I could never come back from. Not now. Not after everything that had happened. It's been months since that day, and I'm still trying to piece myself back together. I've gone through all the stages, anger, disbelief, heartbreak, but in the end, I've learned something important. You can't control other people's actions. You can't make someone stay or love you the way you love them. But you can choose to walk away. You can choose to put yourself first, even when everything else seems broken. I don't know where Claire is now. I don't know what happened to her and that guy, or what Megan's role was in all of it. Maybe I'll never know. But I've learned to move forward, to build a life that isn't tied to the past. I've learned to find peace in the silence, to accept that the truth, however painful, will eventually set you free, even if it's the kind of freedom you never wanted. And now, when I walk to the pharmacy or anywhere else, I don't see them. I don't see the life I thought I had. Instead, I just see what's in front of me. And for the first time in months, I think that's enough.